Quiet Feminist. Hi, everyone. My name is Milud. I go by Mimi, and welcome to my podcast. In this podcast, we will be exploring feminism from the quiet, the shy, and the reserved, like I am, or at least like I used to be. I am the first feminist in my family. I come from the Caribbean, and our country is deeply governed by patriarchy and misogyny. As a result, countless women are forced to be submissive, are abused as children, and even in their marriages as adults. When you are told to be submissive and to be quiet and to always center the male voice for guidance, for protection, often they're not even protecting you, for every for, to need permission to live in general, to exist. It really breaks the psyche. It weighs down on the self-esteem and self-respect and dignity. I'm not saying having a man as a leader in submission is wrong if the man can lead, but often the only criteria of having a submissive woman is being born male. Um, so I grew up here in America, but I was born in a different country. I'm a U.S. citizen. Don't come for me. And I vote Democrat every time since Barack Obama. Thanks. Yeah, so this is the first episode. I just wanted to introduce myself. We are going to be exploring the history of feminism in the Black diaspora before enslavement of the transatlantic slave trade that impacted my people. And we're also going to explore women in the Afro diaspora that were quiet but active feminists that took actions and changed policies to enrich Black women everywhere and give voices to our people. I'm a former political activist. I used to work with Grassroots International many years ago before COVID happened. And I worked with groups in West Africa and in Haiti and in Palestine, exploring how to move women forward in societies, how to promote educating young girls in remote villages in Africa, West Africa specifically, and how to get funding for these women and girls, and how to fight for advocacy even from where we are in America. Feminism is still a struggle here in America. Although this country is a lot more advanced in terms of ideologies than a lot of the world, as in many countries in Africa or sections in Africa, um, a lot of the Middle East, and even the Caribbean. I don't know too much about policies in Europe and in Asia, but I know about South and Central America, the Caribbean, and Africa, and here in North America. So I can touch base on those, but we'll talk a lot about women and how they fought for our liberation, our equality, our independence. We'll talk a lot about sexual violence against women. I'm a survivor of sexual violence myself. I had a roommate attack me during COVID in 2020. And I was told by my attorneys that most assault charges are dropped in court. So we'll also explore in this podcast women that hinder growth for other women as a way to gain favor towards men from men, the pick me girls that we hate so much. Mm, yes. So hopefully I'll have guests here. This is my meditation corner. This is my blanket on the side there. It's been bothering me the whole time. This is my meditation corner. My brother gave me these cheetah print um, pillows and blankets, so I turned it into a meditation corner for myself. And this is where we're going to talk about our quiet feminist actions, how we're going to find ways. Why the fuck is this person knocking? Fuck off, yeah? This is where we're going to be exploring as the neighbor upstairs. This is where we're going to be having guests. They're going to sit in this bedroom in this corner with me, and we'll talk about their stories of survival. Every podcast, I'm going to highlight a woman, a Afro woman that has changed feminism. And the reason I say quiet is there are very boisterous feminists that are out there campaigning and putting their bodies on the line. And then there are those who are doing more of the background work, the advocacy, changing things in Congress and Senate for women, changing policies around the world for Black women and girls to no longer be victims of patriarchy and misogyny and be victims of sexual violence. Oprah Winfrey recently did an episode on her podcast where she highlights how domestic violence has increased since COVID 19. So, domestic violence, it was suggested, or research suggested, that one out of every five women would experience domestic violence or has experienced domestic violence. And during COVID in 2020, it increased to one out of every two. So, 50% of women in America have experienced domestic violence. Often, domestic violence is a form of sexual violence, and most of these men roam free. So, we have to use our voices to speak up. I am a mother, my child is 13 years old. I am an auntie, I've got three nephews and two nieces. And I'm teaching my son how to be a proper man, to not be rooted in misogyny and patriarchy, and to never abuse a woman or a girl. And I'm passing on the same teachings to my nephews, and I'm teaching my nieces to stand up for themselves, to be fierce warriors, to use their intelligence and to use whatever serves them to be an advocate for themselves and to demand freedom from oppressors. Do not let people tell you what your worth is. Do not let people tell you where your place is. I have no issues with women who choose submission to be submissive to a man, but I do have an issue with men or people in general that tries to force women and girls into submission. Not every man is an alpha. Not every man is a leader. Not every man is a provider. This podcast is not to bash men. I'm heterosexual. I love men. I love my brothers. I love my father and my uncles and my male cousins. But I also know what society we live in that teaches women to be quiet, to leave, to lose their power to men for the sake of their own masculinity. Often you'll find the violent men that demand submissive are actually weak in comparison or around other men. So the only way they can insert any form of dominance is to try to be dominant over a woman who are often smaller than them or children who are often victims of violence. There's nothing wrong with a man wanting to be the head of the household, the leader of the household. But a man shouldn't have an issue if a woman doesn't want to partake in that and wants to be the leader themselves. So I've said a mouthful, but this is my quiet feminist corner. And I thank you for joining me. And I look forward to exploring all of the feminists like Maxine Waters that have impact policies for all of us and Black leaders, female leaders from the diaspora. And I'll go as far back as I can. And thank you again. I'm Milud. Welcome to Quiet Feminist. Peace and be well. Besos.